everybody, and welcome back. I hope you are having a wonderful start to your day. I know I personally am having a great start, and I am super excited here to ring in the new year tonight. So, hopefully, you're also excited and you have some great resolutions that you've come up with. So, a lot to talk about here in terms of weather. First, like I like to normally do, run you through the game plan for today's video, and then we will get started. So, first, I'm going to talk about just kind of tomorrow's forecast for New Year's Day, just so you are ready for that. But the main focus for today's video is going to be about this powerful dynamic storm that will swing through the country here to start the new year, going into the beginning of next week. And that'll really take up just about all of today's video. I will touch on at the end maybe the signals of when this pattern that we're currently in with the storm up will break down as we go further into January. So I will touch on that as well in today's video. But first, just want to say thank you. Now that it is New Year's Eve, as you can see, we have surpassed 250 subscribers, which is a super cool milestone to get to. And I have super big plans for this channel going into 2023. I'm kind of hesitant, I guess, to set a specific goal for this new year, but I definitely have pretty big ambitions. So if you like the video, hit the like button, and if you'd like to see more, then go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell so you are always up to date with the latest weather information. All right, so let's go ahead and get right into it. We will start off with satellite here today, and a pretty active picture going on here. As you can tell, pretty unsettled weather here across the east as we're getting this Gulf flow to kind of move up the eastern seaboard here, and then still this continued atmospheric river just pumping into coastal California. I know we have a bowl game out there today, I think in LA, I want to say. So it's likely going to be a soggy one and a soggy start to the new year in those areas, although they definitely need it, just not this much at once. So across the middle of the country, a lot more settled compared to the east and the west coast today. All right, so let's go ahead, and I wanted to just touch on this. This is the dew point map. So as you can see here, the brighter the colors, the higher the dew points. And what that in effect does, it just kind of shows you how muggy it is outside. And for this to be the last day of December, just look at these dew points here along the southeastern coastline. Really in the 60s throughout the entire southeastern coast, even 70s mixing in there throughout Florida, and even near 70 in a place like Charleston, South Carolina, Savannah, Georgia, and even Fayetteville, North Carolina. So those dew points really even stretch up to sections of Virginia. So super impressive stuff to see there, and even relatively muggy, at least to what we've been seeing here as far north as Ohio and even Pittsburgh. So this air mass is definitely helping to create these showers that are currently moving through the eastern United States. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at our current hazards that we have and all of our watches and warnings issued by the National Weather Service. So as you can see here, we are now up to winter storm watches here in sections of the northern plains, that in anticipation of this very dynamic storm that will be moving through here now these areas as early as Sunday night and into Monday. So now that we're in that window, they've gone ahead and issued those watches. Still, as we've had for the past couple of days, plenty of winter weather advisories here in the higher elevations out west throughout the Rockies. So if you have a ski trip planned out there, let me tell you, you are in luck, because these places have just been getting pounded with tons of natural snow, really for about a week now. And then California is still dealing with all of these flood watches ongoing, and wind advisories as well throughout much of the state of California. Calm down here in places like Washington and Oregon as that atmospheric river has begun to sag south into more of California and Nevada compared to the further north places. Also up the I-95 corridor here through Philly, much of New Jersey, and into Manhattan, further up along the Connecticut and Massachusetts coastlines. We have some fog advisories just because of this kind of rainy weather, as well as the dew points helping to create foggy conditions up there. So if you're going to watch the ball drop in New York City, make sure you are prepared for that and you have an umbrella with you just in case. Speaking of umbrellas, let's go ahead and take a look at radar now. Quick, just looking here at the national stage. Again, this might be a little blurry, but I'll zoom in a second to make it more visible for everybody. Just like satellite showed, unsettled weather here across the east, and then this atmospheric river still pumping off of the Pacific Ocean and into California. All right, let me go ahead and zoom this in now, get a bit more of an in-depth view All right, so as you can tell, ongoing rain throughout San Fran, Sacramento, San Jose, and as the night goes on, this will likely sag southward towards the Los Angeles area as we go into uh, the 12 o'clock hour. We also have rain ongoing here through northern Nevada and into Utah. I say rain, depending on elevation, likely snow at higher elevations and rain at the lower elevations there. A couple of showers and maybe even some snow moving through areas of Iowa, Illinois, and sections of Minnesota and Wisconsin right now. But as you can see here, a lot of rain ongoing here across the east, starting to clear out here into the southeast. As we talked about yesterday, this would likely happen, and even up through areas of Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio. This area beginning to clear out and dry out for the start of your new year. But ongoing showers and storms throughout the mid Atlantic and Northeast. This will continue to push eastbound and should move through the New York area likely right around the time we hit 12 o'clock. So if you're there for the celebration beforehand, make sure you have an umbrella on you and likely rain ongoing throughout the night in sections of New England. All right, so let's go ahead and take a quick look at tomorrow's weather, and then we will get into this storm that will be moving through to start the new year. All right, so we'll go ahead and start here with the GFS model. And as you can tell, legend here at the bottom. So you have all of the color key there to look at. And we will go ahead and get right into it. So this is for tomorrow morning here on your Sunday, January 1st. Still some showers exiting New England. And then this is the start of that dynamic system we're going to have to worry about here throughout California as it comes off the Pacific and moves inland, creating very unsettled weather here throughout the southwest. Also, maybe a little bit of snow moving here through portions of Michigan with rain showers as well mixing in. They're not a huge deal with that. So going into tomorrow afternoon and evening, really start to dry out here across the eastern United States. But this storm system now moving through the Four Corners as we go into Sunday evening with very heavy mountain snow and as well as pretty heavy rain in the lower elevations. This is an area that doesn't see a lot of precipitation at all during the year, so definitely a rarity to see that. All right, so that is your forecast for New Year's Day in terms of precipitation. We will go ahead and take a look at high temperatures for tomorrow, January 1st. Unseasonably warm, really, throughout the east here. Temperatures getting into the 70s here throughout the south, really from Dallas all the way over to Birmingham, even hitting the 70s. Wouldn't be surprised to see Atlanta hit the 70s. And then 60s as we go up into the mid-Atlantic. Sorry about that. Did not mean to do that. Feels like I do that just about every video, but that is okay. And then not really getting above freezing tomorrow throughout the northern plains and the higher elevations of the Rockies. So that's high temperature for tomorrow. Looking at the low temperature for tomorrow, again, unseasonably warm through a lot of areas here, not getting below freezing throughout just about all of the east here, especially the southeast, staying above freezing with widespread 40s and 50s throughout the south, and then 30s and 40s as you move north here through the Ohio River Valley. And then, of course, colder temperatures up here into the northern plains, although relatively seasonable temperatures at that. Okay, so actually, let's back this up, and we will go ahead and move further ahead in time with the storm. We'll start with the GFS, then we will look at the Euro, and then we will go in depth with the different types of hazards we have to deal with as the system approaches. Okay, so this is going into Monday afternoon. This low pressure here on the GFS coming out of the Rockies here, and with that, we are getting a big band of snow here on the north side. And you can also see convection beginning here in the Arclitect region. So this is Monday afternoon as we get into Monday evening and to the overnight heavy snow breaking out here across sections of Nebraska, South Dakota, with heavy snowfall rates and windy conditions. So potentially blizzard conditions in spots here. Although we don't have any blizzard warnings yet, we will make sure that we stay focused on that and look out for that as we go further ahead in time here. But also here into the Tuesday, as with Tuesday overnight hours, Monday overnight going into Tuesday. Sorry about that. Still a lot of storms firing up here through the Mississippi River Valley here, from the Texas coastline northward all the way into Missouri. So the severe threat that we're going to deal with here will likely continue into the overnight hours as well. So this won't be just a daytime event for a lot of people. So as we go into the overnight hours of Tuesday, that heavy snow band lifts towards the Minneapolis area and moves out of Nebraska, going into Tuesday morning within the worst conditions going into those areas. And we also have a line of storms here stretching from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up to like Indianapolis, and into Ohio, into your Tuesday morning. So as we go into Tuesday afternoon here, the snow begins to wind down. Still some leftover back end snow, but the low pressure itself will likely move up into Canada, with maybe some light snow showers and flurries left over behind here into the northern plains. But still strong severe storms here throughout the southeast as we go into Tuesday afternoon, stretching from potentially Alabama through the Carolinas here. And then as we get into the Wednesday overnight, conditions should improve in terms of severity here throughout the southeast, but still leftover rain and showers as we still have that warm Gulf flow bringing in a lot of unsettled weather. As we get into Wednesday afternoon, still rainy throughout the southeast, and we get our next system moving into California, which we won't touch on in this video, but we will as we get further ahead here in the coming days. But should clear out throughout much of the east going into Thursday. Should have time to get a bit of a breather. All right, so that is the GFS. We'll now run through the Euro, which shows really a similar picture. So we're not going to spend too much time here. But again, going into early Monday morning, unsettled weather here throughout the four corners as that low pressure really gets going, and then attempts to dive out of the Rockies here going into Monday. And same story here that the GFS showed, convection firing here in the Arctic region, with severe storms very likely, and a swath of snow stretching here from Nebraska into South Dakota. And then eventually that will work its way into Minneapolis going into Tuesday night. And also, something that we are going to have to talk about is the potential for some icing here, between the rain and snow. This won't be a distinct rain-snow line, but there will definitely be a corridor of ice in between the two, which a lot of the times presents worse conditions than snow. So we'll take a look at the ice and snow totals here at the end of the video, but that will likely become a concern going into the overnight of Monday and into Tuesday the 3rd. Also, during that overnight, still strong storms working their way here through the southern Mississippi Valley, going into Tuesday. And as we go into Tuesday afternoon, still a heavy swath of snow now moving into Minneapolis, northern Wisconsin, and into the UP of Michigan, with some heavy snowfall in those areas. Also, Tuesday afternoon here, again, like the GFS showed, Dixie Alley now getting some action here with that severe weather, and showers also still extending northward here into New England. So although there won't be severe weather, there are still rainy conditions to the northern side of the actual severe weather, which should be relatively confined to the southeast here. All right, going into overnight on Tuesday, again, the severity of the storm should die down, but still unsettled weather here throughout the southeast, and rain still ongoing into New England here into Tuesday night. As we go through the day, Wednesday, still some rainy conditions, but we try to clear out going into overnight Wednesday and into Thursday. Something we will also watch here on the trends is maybe this low pressure tries to get going here into New England, and maybe we can get a bit of back-end snow here in sections of New England. Still got some time to work that out. Let's try to get through the severe weather threat first, and then we can touch more on the potential for that. But right now, some disagreement between the models on that. But what they do agree on is overall clearing by Thursday as that next system moves into California. All right, so we talked about that. Now let's go ahead and talk about the severe weather threat more in depth, and then we will touch on the snow totals and ice totals, and then we should be done here today, and you can all move on with the rest of your day. But so Storm Prediction Center here has issued now an enhanced area of severe weather threat, as well as a slight area and a marginal area here in a, well, let me try to draw that a little bit better for you. here on the outer edge of the enhanced area. So really, the bullseye here right on the Arclitect going into Monday afternoon for that severe weather threat from the Storm Prediction Center. This is pretty rare to see at day 3, so the SPC obviously feels very confident that we will have a pretty dangerous day Monday. And then they also have for Tuesday an area outlined here throughout Dixie Alley, stretching from Jackson, Mississippi, all the way over to Atlanta, Georgia, and potentially even a place like Chattanooga, Tennessee. So obviously, us folks here in Dixie Alley are not immune to the severe weather. And if you know, there's been plenty of times in the past, I guess is what I'm trying to say, where we've had to deal with this. So make sure you have everything you need ready for that through all of these areas and have a storm readiness kit. So now let's go ahead and look at some actual modeling here for this severe weather threat as we go into the start of the week. So what we're going to start looking at here is average lightning flash density over a 6-hour period. So what you're going to see here on the map is some bright colors show up, and as you can tell down here, the brighter the colors, the more lightning that is expected in that 6-hour period. So this is Monday morning, still calm here throughout the country, no lightning really to speak of, but as we get into Monday afternoon, you can see thunderstorms firing up here, really right there in that bullseye into the Arclitect here on the European model. So that will then move ahead going into Monday night, that lightning still continuing and spreading potentially as far north as St. Louis. So seeing thunderstorms in St. Louis to start January is definitely a rarity. Really just interesting stuff here that we are dealing with. But those thunderstorms will continue. This is Tuesday afternoon now. As you can see, Dixie Alley really gets going. And I would expect some pretty intense thunderstorms here along the Gulf of Mexico going into next Tuesday and Wednesday. Much like some of the storms we had rolling through Mobile yesterday, we'll likely see a similar scenario, but with more widespread severe weather going into this week. Now lightning, look at this, even getting into places like the foothills of South Carolina, up the I-85 corridor, and maybe even seeing thunderstorms up into West Virginia. Again, quite the rarity to see here in early January, but this is such a dynamic system, I wouldn't rule it out at all. And then luckily, those thunderstorms will hopefully begin to move out going into Wednesday night and Thursday. So now let's go ahead and look at bulk shear here on the Euro. This is Monday afternoon, so this is the beginning of this severe weather outbreak that is going to be likely to occur. As you can see, a big area here of plenty of wind shear to work with on the European model. That wind shear will then going into Monday night and Tuesday morning push further east, and some areas plenty conducive enough here with these areas of wind shear to produce strong storms, including tornadoes. As we move into Tuesday night here across Dixie Alley, still plenty of wind shear to work with here in the range of 60 to 70 knots, which will definitely get the job done if given other ingredients to get these thunderstorms really rolling. Going into Wednesday, this is Wednesday afternoon. Look at this. This is some pretty insane wind shear amounts here throughout Dixie Alley and into the Carolinas. So if there's still instability left over going into Wednesday, plenty strong enough shear here in areas like Atlanta and into the Carolinas. Kind of off the chart numbers here in terms of wind shear. But those ingredients will begin to slowly work out as we get later into next week. All right, so let's go ahead and look at mixed layer CAPE here now from the Euro. And again, as I try to explain the best I can, but CAPE is just thunderstorm fuel. So the brighter the colors you see here on the map, the better or the easier it is for thunderstorms to form and grow in intensity and strength. So this is Monday afternoon. As you can tell, got those ingredients here through a big section of East Texas over to Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. As for Monday afternoon, personally, I really think East Texas is going to be quite the hotspot in terms of tornadic activity and the strongest of these thunderstorms. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see multiple tornadoes here across eastern Texas on your Monday afternoon. So we'll go ahead and look at lapse rates now And again, I'll try to explain this the best I can, but a lapse rate, again, the brighter the color here, pretty much, the easier it is for storms to form. As for Cape, Cape is more of at the surface, how easy or how well the ingredients are there at the surface. Lapse rate is higher up into the atmosphere, so how well are the ingredients in terms of temperature and instability at higher layers of the atmosphere. And again, as you can see here, Monday afternoon, I mean, East Texas, pretty high lapse rate numbers here to work with for these storms, but that really spreads all the way into as far east as Mississippi on Monday. We'll go ahead and let me actually move both of these in time now. So for Cape, as you can see here, that Cape will continue to move through the southeast going into Tuesday afternoon. Still enough Cape to work with here into sections of Mississippi and Alabama. And then that will continue to work its way east into the Carolinas as we get into Tuesday night and Wednesday. All right, as for the lapse rates here, again, going into Tuesday overnight and Tuesday afternoon, those values will begin to push here further east into the Carolinas and sections of Dixie Alley. So again, plenty enough lapse rates to work with there for severe weather. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the GFS model. I guess just in terms of transparency, it's always best to look at a couple different models and see the different depictions. So we're going to start here by looking at the supercell composite here for the GFS. And again, this just shows how, I guess, well the ingredients are for supercells to form here. All right, so going into Monday afternoon, you see, those ingredients starting to work into those places that we've been talking about, Eastern Texas, but really just the Arklatex region in general, but Eastern Texas into Arkansas and Louisiana going into Monday afternoon. Those ingredients will then push into Dixie Alley going into Tuesday afternoon, into Mississippi, Alabama, and then into Wednesday afternoon, maybe having enough of these ingredients left over into the Carolinas to even get some severe weather there on Wednesday. And then those ingredients begin to move away as we get later into the week. All right, so we got two more things to look at here. We're going to start with storm relative helicity here with the GFS. And what this shows is how strong is the wind shear in terms of speed, as well as different directions to help storms begin to rotate. So this is just involving the winds. This does not have to do with the instability itself. And what we like to do is combine the two to get a general idea of what areas have the best chance of seeing tornadoes. So in terms of just wind here, this is Monday afternoon, some of the best ingredients, again, over the same areas that we've been talking about. And whenever you see that, you begin to see overlap of all the ingredients, and that's whenever you begin to get worrisome that this can really get going and cause quite the trouble. Going into later Monday night, into even the beginning of Tuesday here, I mean, these are really strong numbers in terms of wind, in terms of the ingredients here to create rotating thunderstorms. So these are numbers you really don't want to see, and then those numbers begin to move into Dixie Alley going into Tuesday afternoon, and eventually on Wednesday even hanging around sections of the Carolinas. One thing I do want you to note on this map, I know you see these super bright colors in a place like New England, and you're thinking, okay, so then New England is under the gun for the severe weather. Not quite, because again, as we talked about, this is just the wind. You also need the instability in areas for that wind to even matter. And as you can see here, this is Monday afternoon. This is where the actual instability is. So even though you have these crazy strong winds in a place like New England at times, this is going to stay confined, here to the southeast. So looking at Monday afternoon here, again, some pretty impressive overlap here of the instability in terms of energy here within the atmosphere to help these storms form with the wind energy on your Monday. And that's why we have such a high threat to worry about. Going into Tuesday afternoon, that instability again moves into Dixie Alley here. And then going into Wednesday afternoon, moving into the Carolinas. So again, you notice here, Monday, these areas see a lot of the overlap in terms of ingredients. And then on Tuesday, these areas see a lot of overlap in terms of the ingredients. And then on Wednesday, these areas kind of see the best overlap in terms of ingredients. So this is kind of how I would draw it up. This would be Wednesday. This would be Tuesday. And if I could find the right color again, I guess I'm not going to, but this would be Monday. So that's kind of what we're dealing with there with the severe weather side of this system. All right, so now let's just touch on the snow side. I already showed you the radar projection for what we expect to see, but again, the highest totals here in terms of snowfall will likely be through these areas here with a pretty good swath of 6 to 12 inches of snow likely through a big section here of northern Nebraska and southern South Dakota. And then lighter totals as you get into the Minneapolis area and into northern Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan. All right, so now let's go ahead and look at the ice totals as well. Again, most of the time the ice is a bigger deal than the snow itself in terms of impacts. And we expect that bullseye to set up here into northern Iowa and southern Minnesota, with some areas receiving in excess of a quarter of an inch of ice. And once you get to that threshold past a quarter of an inch, that's when problems really get pretty bad there with the ice. And if you do have any snow on top of that as well, that will only exacerbate the problems. All right, so I did want to touch real quick on the longer range pattern. I know this video is already going for a pretty long time, but we have seen some things in the modeling that suggest potentially this pattern will begin to break down going into the middle of January. So these are the GFS ensembles here, and we're going to move this super far ahead in time. This is next Sunday, so January the 8th here. That is your time frame that we're looking at. Let me also actually bring up the legend down here at the bottom. So to explain this map, this is just a height anomaly. So the areas in the red generally show ridging, while the areas in the blue show troughing. So the blue is usually more unsettled weather, while the red is more calm weather, and generally, not all the time, but sometimes can show warmer temperatures as well. But we'll go ahead and move this ahead in time. As you can see, this is that pattern we've been kind of stuck in. We've had troughing out here in the west and then ridging out in the east. And what that has caused is these warmer temperatures to overtake the eastern United States. But as we move this further ahead in time, as we get into the middle of January here, what you begin to see is that troughing begins to break down in the west. Oops, sorry. Yeah, go ahead and bring that back for us. As we get into the middle of January here, though, what you begin to see on some of the modeling is we now have the opposite pattern. We have ridging in the west and troughing in the east. So a lot of that snowy, unsettled weather could be making a return here throughout the eastern United States as we get into the middle of January. And that's kind of my thoughts. I said that in a video a couple days ago, actually. That I know we've had a lot of people declaring the end of winter, but it is way too early to do that, and I still think we have plenty more snow on the way to the east this winter. But anyway, that is all I have for you today on this New Year's Eve. I hope everyone has a wonderful and safe night, and Happy New Year to everyone. I will see you all tomorrow.